during the ownership of that asset, we had 13 streams of revenue: boat club, boat rental, marina, Airbnb, events, membership, swimming pool membership, some storage, some parking storage, etc. So 13 streams of revenue on one piece of property. And that was at that moment that it really taught me the power of multiple streams of revenue with one transaction.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Syndicating Your Way to Wealth, the podcast that educates, inspires, and empowers you to build wealth through multifamily syndications. I'm Katie Cepeda.
And I am Yelfrey De Leon. And today we have a very special guest on our show. Today's guest is a lifelong investor, entrepreneur, and a successful real estate syndicator. He is also a mentor and one of my favorite real estate mentors, I would say. In his 40-year career, he has built, owned, and operated multiple businesses that have generated over $90 million in revenue and employed over 1,000 people. His real estate portfolio consists of a wide variety of asset types, including marinas, resorts, self-storage units, events facilities, but most importantly, and probably his favorite, multifamily apartment units. Today, he has investments and dispositions in over 1,000 apartment units in multiple markets across the country, with a total over $50 million of assets under management. Please welcome Paul Montelongo to the show. Welcome, Paul.
Hey guys, how you doing? Everybody good?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
Awesome. All righty. So, Paul, why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about your story? So we know that you've been in real estate most of your life. And, we just want to know, how did you get started on this journey? And what was it like for you at the beginning?
Sure. Thanks. First of all, thanks for having me on your show. And I hope that your listeners get great value from what we discuss here. My journey has been for my entire life in real estate. So at the age of 17, I purchased my first piece of real estate. It was a residential piece of land, a residential lot, little bitty pie shape. And I bought it with money that I had saved and earned from doing the things you do when you're a teenager: mowing the lawn, raking leaves, doing odd jobs here and there. And it was $7,500. And I had great aspirations of building a speculative house on the property and then selling it and making a huge windfall. But at that age, I really didn't have an idea of what I was doing. So 2 years later, I sold the property for $15,000. So I doubled my money. I made $7,500. And I like to tell the story that I did exactly what an experienced, savvy real estate investor does with their windfall profits. I bought a truck and a motorcycle. So obviously I did not reinvest my profits. I went out and spent them on boy toys.
As you should.
But as I should, yes. And by the way, I still kind of do that. Okay. So, but 2 years later, I bought a little residential house. I fixed it up. I flipped it. I bought the house across the street. I flipped it. And then I started buying more properties and fixing them up and flipping them. And along the way, I owned a construction company. I owned an insurance restoration company. I was a builder. And so all through my career, I've been involved in real estate and construction simultaneously. And then in the early 2008, 2009, when the economy went upside down, I found a real opportunity there, and I started buying flips, foreclosures. I started buying foreclosed homes because they were greatly undervalued and flipping them. I did most of that on the West Coast, California, in the Vegas area. And that was a really good time, because if you knew where to look and you knew how to take advantage of the economic situations, then people made a lot of money during that time. Then that rolled over into 2014, where I was asked by a friend if I wanted to go in and buy a marina. And of course I said no, because I had never owned a marina. I had never owned a boat. I still have never owned a boat. But once I did actually decide to buy in on that marina, I then woke up one morning and I had inherited 115 boats. So we bought the marina, we stabilized the asset, we converted the RV park that was attached to the marina to a tiny home park. And at one point the uh, during the ownership of that asset, we had 13 streams of revenue: boat club, boat rental, marina, uh, Airbnb, events, membership, swimming pool membership, some storage, some parking storage, etc. So 13 streams of revenue on one piece of property. And that was at that moment that it really taught me the power of multiple streams of revenue with one transaction. So fortunately, I had some gentlemen that were partners, and they really mentored me and taught me how to do this thing we call syndication. They had been buying apartments, so they taught me how to buy apartments. And so then I went on this journey to buy multifamily and multi-unit properties. And so currently we're in 1,114 doors. I've cycled through several hundred doors, three properties, and we are building self storage. I'm working on more deals to build more self storage. We have like deal flow like crazy right now. We have in offers all over the place to buy properties. We've been very active this year, and we've acquired a number of properties this year. So it's just been a journey. It's just been a growth. It's been a learning. It's been a commitment and a dedication. But I feel like we've finally hit um, some real traction and some real momentum. And when I say we, it's me and my wife and my team and our partners and the people that we collaborate with. It's a team effort. And so this is where we are today.
Wow. That was amazing and very inspiring. Thank you, Paul, for sharing that. I mean, let's just unpack that a little bit. So you mentioned, 17-year-old Paul,
Mm.
7,500, buys his first property. What led you to think like, okay, I want to go into real estate. This is the way forward. And, really, because I mean, I'm thinking for my own self. When I was 17, I surely wasn't thinking about real estate. I mean, I wish I was doing so, right? I would have been in a different position today. But, what led you to that path?
Yeah, it's really simple. It's not complicated at all. My father told me you need to go buy real estate. Now, interestingly enough, he did not own any real estate other than the house we lived in. And he didn't invest in real estate until much later in my life. Then he invested in real estate. But at that moment or at that time, I guess he realized that if I were going to have a future in anything, that real estate would be a part of that. So I took him at his word. I liked the idea of working and making money and saving money and seeing money. And so making an investment in a piece of real estate when I'm 17 years old seemed pretty logical to me. And was it lucky that it worked out? Maybe. Um, and then it gave me a taste of what was possible in real estate. And so, actually, all through my career, there have been times when I've been heavily involved in real estate and focused on it. And there have been little periods where I haven't. And then there'll be periods again where I have, and periods when I haven't. Remember, this has been going on now for 40 plus years. So there's been an ebb and flow of it. But specifically over the last 9.5 years, almost 10 years now, actually, as I think about it, it has been 10 years. We've been really focused on these multi-unit properties and increasing our portfolio and our wealth through cash flowing properties, multi-unit cash flowing properties.
Great. Thank you.
That's amazing, and that just makes me think about the people that you had in your life that have had that impact for you to think that way. Something I know about you is that you didn't go to college, you didn't get a degree to get a job. You went out and you decided to create a business, but not only one, you've created multiple business. So it just
Yeah.
makes me think about how you were able to acquire that knowledge of going after creating a business and solving problems.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to college at all. Both of my sons have degrees. They went to college. I went to about half of a semester. I was taking an architectural design class, and I remember the professor said, when you get your degree, you'll be able to go out and make $40,000 a year. And I was probably 19 or 20. And I remember thinking, I don't want to make $40,000 a year. I want to make a lot more. So I did not go to class the next day, did not return to class. And I just went to work.
That's
At the time, I was
powerful.
working for my father. Yeah, at the time, I was working for my father. He had a remodeling company. So I worked in the remodeling business. And then about 6 or 7 years later, at the age of 27, I separated and I went my own way, created my own businesses. And so technically from the age of 27 on, I've always had my own businesses and earned my own way.
And what would you say is your favorite investment strategies? So it seems like you've invested in many different assets to diversify your portfolio. What's your favorite investment strategy?
Well, syndication, because when I learned the power of syndication in order to buy larger properties that were a larger investment, like that was magical to me. I remember driving past large apartment complexes and office complexes and office buildings and these large pieces of real estate, thinking, how in the world did somebody buy those? And then, as I matured, I learned, oh, they put a group of people's money together. They offer a return on investment to those investors. They buy the property, they turn the business into a profitable business, and everyone shares in the profits. And so the syndication model to me became the most powerful real estate strategy that I had ever encountered. And so we went for it and learned it, and fortunately it's worked out well, and fortunately our investors have benefited from it. So that that seemed to be the most powerful strategy that I've ever used. But that's a great question, Katie, because okay, so now my mindset is like, what's the next most powerful strategy that I could use or find or discover? I think I have an answer. I'm testing it. We'll see. But um, so that you can buy more properties and expand the portfolio and expand the wealth, not only to myself and my family, but to other people that we collaborate and other people that we partner with. So I'm always in that search for, okay, what's the next little best thing that can happen to make what we do really good.
Of course. All right. So, based on your 40 years of real estate experience, how would you describe the current real estate market today? Why would you think that investing in, apartment units would be a smart strategy for any investors out there?
Well, first of all, I participated in one recession. I have not participated in the other three that were in my life. So think about that for a second. The first recession that I experienced was, I think I was in my early 20s, and interest rates were 17, 18, 19%. And I didn't know. And I just thought that, okay, this is the way it is. Everyone is affected by this. There's no way out. I'll just have to wait for it to pass. But then when the following two or three recessions followed, and I say that with a question mark because I don't really believe that we're in a recession right now. I do believe that we're in a bit of a correction, but I don't think we're in a recession, because if you go to the mall, if you go to the movies, if you go to the airport, if you go to a football game, basketball game, there is so much money being spent on those luxuries. If you go to the lake, the boats out there and the people that are out there, there's so much money being spent on those luxuries that to me, that's not an indicator of a recession. Having said that, I think that we're in a time where real estate market values are correcting. I think we're in a time that people are hesitant because of the fluctuation in debt and in financing. And I think that we're in a time where retail investors are sort of sitting on their hands, waiting to see what happens in the market. So what does that mean? That means that there's opportunity. That means that we, as operators, owners, managers, buyers of real estate, have better deals at our access, to our access. And so it requires that we look closer at deals. It requires that we solidify and maximize our broker relationships and our dealer relationships so that we have good deals coming to us. I can tell you right now that just based on what we have on our board, the deal flow is phenomenal. Like I mentioned earlier, we have put in 3 LOIs this week alone, and we made best and final on 2 of them. So we're in that round. We landed another deal about 2 weeks ago. So we do see the deal flow, we do see opportunity, and so it's a mindset. Are you going to sit back and wait for the market to correct, or the market to be what you think it should be, or are you going to search through the market and find the opportunities that are there for investors?
Right. Yeah. No. Thank you for mentioning that, Paul. That's very insightful. One thing I definitely agree with you on that. A lot of people think that, oh, we had interest rates of, I don't know, 2.7, 2.8%, 3% in 2020, and they might think that this is the normal, or that it'll come back. You know what? It might never come back. Because this is not the normal. There was a period in 2020 where interest rates were that low, and we were able to buy a lot of real estate assets. However, like you mentioned, it's a time where this is correcting itself, and although it may be a little high now, there's always opportunity to refinance. There's a lot of creative finance out there, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of owner operators that are having access to a lot of opportunities, and also people who are in, or properties that are in distress financially, and it creates an opportunities for people like us, right, who want to take ownership of those properties, improve them, etc. So definitely, thank you
So
for that.
it really doesn't matter what the interest rate is, because there was a time when I was in a market where the interest rate was 12, 13, 14%.
Wow.
So why do I say that? Because if rates right now are 6 to 7 to 8, well, on one of our deals, construction deal, we're looking at 8.5%. Okay, that's high. However, does the deal warrant it? Can you negotiate the deal so that 8% or 12% or whatever the interest rate is makes sense? Because as long as the deal makes sense, we'll be able to refinance that deal in 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and it'll make even more sense. But you're going to buy, it's the old adage, and it's true, you make your money when you buy. So if you buy it right, based on the existing conditions, the current conditions, if you buy it right, then you've made a good real estate deal, and it will only get better when interest rates correct even more.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you for that.
And I guess really quickly, that goes back to what you were saying about your underwriting process. Like, that's what's going to change.
So we're underwriting differently, obviously. We're looking more at debt. We're looking more at the cost of living. We're looking more at the cost of construction. We're looking more at maybe some of the hesitancy in the market for tenants to rent or to pay for higher rent. So all of those factors we look in at every deal, and we keep tabs on those metrics weekly because that's our business. So when we're in a market, we're always measuring the market to see what the resilience is of the market, and where the test points of the market are, and how we can maximize that market. So it's what you do when you're in business. You just continue to evaluate. It's your business. Do it.
Right.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about the current state of the economy and rising interest rates, can you speak a little bit about a challenge that you have experienced in your journey, and how have you been able to overcome it?
Well, I've had a couple of deals that didn't go as well as I thought. So we would get into the deal and find conditions were different than we expected. So it required more capital expenditure. It required maybe even, well, one required restructuring debt. So when you step up to the plate and swing a bat that many times, sometimes you're gonna walk. You're gonna have a walk. Sometimes you're gonna hit a fly ball. You know, so um, and fortunately, we've never had a deal fail. So we've got that. Um, but every deal creates its own unique set of circumstances. And so those couple of challenges on those couple of deals that we just had to crack down, restructure the business plan, take a look at our assets, take a look at the capital that we had, see how we can trim expenses, see how we can maximize the human resources that we had, see how we can even work with our investors to let them know what was happening on the project and what to expect. So you look at but you look at the deal and you look at the transaction and you put yourself in a solution mode mindset. So if you're solution oriented and you're always asking yourself the question, how can this get repaired? How can this get fixed? How can we solve this? If those are your prevailing questions, your brain will seek the answer and find the answer. Whereas if you're thinking, well, this is a problem. Why does this suck? How did I miss this so badly? What's going on with the market? Oh, why are those people over there doing that? Now you become a victim instead of a victor. So, I prefer to look at the opportunity in everything and seek solutions. And I think that we have built a nice team that their primary question or their primary thought is, how do we seek a solution? And we're always thinking, even on a good deal, even when something is going well, all right, what's the solution to make it better? So a lot of that is mindset, Kate.
I love that.
Very insightful. Thank you, Paul. So, looking back at your career, what is one thing that you wish you would have done differently and that would have helped you scale your business faster? And how
Well, I
can
wish I
that?
would have.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
no. Finish your question. How can that what?
Oh, so how can that serve as a motivation for aspiring investors like us?
Right, 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 right. Well, I wish I would have known about syndication much earlier. So you guys that are young and you've learned about syndication, that's a magical thing. It's a really magical thing. And so I wish I would have learned about that strategy much earlier because I'm sure that well, all of my businesses prior to my first syndication, all of my businesses were self-funded. So if I had a deal, I funded it myself. If I built a business, I funded it myself. I was not I was not confident enough to go out and ask for other people's money to invest in my business, and I wasn't aware of the nuances of the syndication model. But once I learned that and got coached on it and mentored on it, and then actually did it and performed it, then your my confidence built. My confidence built, and right now, I have like no hesitancy. But the reason, part of the reason, a big part of the reason of that is I've got good deals. Like if you come into one of our deals, we're we're doing you a great service. Your money is going to work in a very, very good way. So that confidence is easily transferable over to an investor. So the syndication model, from a technical perspective, the syndication model is what I wish I could have mastered much earlier in my career. I remember the first time my first deal, I knew I had to raise $1.4 million. And so I did iPhone Wheel of Fortune. So I would go through my Rolodex and I would just scroll, scroll, scroll. And wherever my thumb landed, that's the person that I would call. Hey, do you have $100,000? No? Okay, scroll, scroll, thumb. You have $100,000? No. And I got rejected for the whole deal. And then I found a partner that raised $1.4 million in 9 days. I'm like, that's cool. How did you do that? And so then he taught me. So now why did I get rejected or why did I get turned down for investment? Because my database, my Rolodex did not know me in this space. They knew me in my other businesses, in the space of my other businesses. And so they had no frame of reference for my success ratio in this business. So they waited for me to have success, in this business in order to invest in this business. So I think that's a good point for people out there who are in some other business and want to get into syndication. You've got to build the confidence of your friends, family, and other investors. They've got to see you active in this space. They've got to see you have some success in this space. They've got to see you have some credibility and stamina in this space. And then that breeds more confidence for them to invest in your deals.
Great. No, definitely. I love the tips. So, I want to touch on a point that you mentioned earlier. So, we've been talking about your success on other businesses. So, how have your success in other businesses have transferred to this model of real estate syndication? How were you able to apply that? What processes and systems worked well for you in that
Yeah,
respect?
no, that's a great question. That's a great question. So I have a belief, and I adopted this belief maybe about 15 years ago. I remember just really thinking about it because I was transforming it into another business model. And I remember thinking, everything that I have done prior to this has set me up for what I'm doing today. And so when I went into the syndication model and when I went into buying $15 million properties. Okay. Um, I carried that belief through. I'm like, everything that I have done prior to this has set me up for this day. All of my experiences, the people that I've hired, the personnel that I've trained, the business deals that I've made in the past, the negotiations, the dealing with the attorneys, the lawsuits, the failures, the bank loans, everything has brought me to this point today to help me pull off a $15 million purchase, by example. Okay. And so I continue to believe that, like, whatever we're doing right here in this podcast, it will serve me tomorrow, somehow, some way. And it will serve me in 2 years, this experience right here. And so that's a core belief that I have about myself. And you know what confirmation bias is? So
Yep.
confirmation bias is, you have a belief and you search for evidence to prove that you are right, to confirm your bias. So I have this belief, and so I continually search for evidence that helps prove to myself that my belief is correct about all of my experience in the past. And by the way, that's not business experience only. That's life experience. That's relationship experience, and all of those things that have happened to me up to this point in my life, they have served me for what is happening today and what will happen next. I really believe that.
Thank
Very
you,
good.
Paul.
Very good. Thanks, Paul.
I'll, I'll, I'll add this too. So that very first deal that I did, the reason I got invited to that deal was for my business acumen, not so much for my real estate experience. I did have some money that I invested into it, and I did have a balance sheet that I contributed to it. But but more importantly, they wanted someone with business experience and the experience to operate a business. And so my resume matched that. Okay, well, like I said, I never owned a marina, I'd never owned an RV park, I'd never owned, a 14-acre piece of property like that. But I had owned businesses with multiple employees, with multiple moving parts. So all I had to do was take those skills and move them over to this new operation and then go forward with it.
How do you build such a strong mindset and not allow, whatever obstacles or fears or whatever it is, get in your way?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're assuming that I have a strong mindset. I'm just kidding you.
Seems like
I'm
it.
just
We
kidding
like
you.
to believe that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Listen, I have my doubts. I have my self doubts. I have my moments where it's dark and I'm like, what in the heck am I doing? I worry that I'm protecting my investors' money, and I worry about that. Um, but I don't worry about it to the point where I lose sleep. because I try to build in a lot of protective measures to be able not to worry about that. So the real answer to the question is I have my doubts and fears and insecurities and frailties because this is my human experience as well. That all said, I have done a lot of work, a lot of personal work. I've done a lot of. I don't mind sharing this. I've been in therapy for good reasons.
Hey, we all
Fortunately,
we
I've
all need
never
that
had a.
sometimes.
We do need it. I've had some good therapists. I've had some really good mentors that were in my face about things. Um, and so, I've done a lot of personal work to get to this point, and I feel like I'm still doing a lot of personal work so that I can stay sharp. And I don't have any addictive behaviors. I stay physically fit. I stay healthy. I'm family oriented and family centered. Um, my wife and I, our top core value is adventure. So, like, we're always in an adventurous mode. We stay curious. And so I think that zest and passion for life itself, just for life, bleeds over into our work and bleeds over into our relationships and our friendships and so forth.
Okay.
That's great. And I mean, something that we also know about you is that you have been an inspirational speaker or motivational speaker, I should say. And you have done so many different things, mentor, builder, like you mentioned.
There was a 10-year period there where I was on this professional speaking circuit. And so a large part of what I did was I taught sales training and sales motivation and inspirational speaking. Now, that was a total accident, me getting into that line of work. Someone asked me to speak. I spoke. Someone was in the audience. They heard me. They said, "Would you come speak to our group?" Someone heard me. They said, "Would you come speak to our group?"
Hey,
Wow.
And
that
before you
means
knew
that
it,
means you were great. I don't doubt
well,
it.
I appreciate, yeah. And so then for 10 years, I was on the speaking circuit doing about 70 to 75 professional engagements a year.
Wow.
Wow.
And so what I determined or what I learned then was, a lot of people in the audiences, and I still think this is the case, a lot of people in the audiences, um, they just want to feel they're like they can do it. And and again, our insecurities creep up. And sometimes we just need somebody to say, you know what, get off your butt, get out there and do it. There's no excuses. You can do it. That's the conversation I have with myself. Like sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit down, I'm like, don't do that. Get out there, one foot in front of the other, and then the momentum will pick up. So, during that time that I was doing those engagements, it was very fulfilling, and I did a lot of corporate training and association training and so forth. Um, and interestingly enough, over the last year, from my work in the multifamily business and the multifamily space, I have been asked to come speak at conferences and events. I didn't search out, to go speak at those events, but I have been invited more and more. And so I'm finding, oh, I remember how much I like this, but
That's
it's from a
great.
little different perspective. Yeah, it's a little different perspective now because I get to share a lot of my life experience, and I get to share, my journey, and people listen. This is a very long game. This is a marathon, and so if you think you're going to get into any kind of business and make a windfall profit and be out in a year or two, that's a very, very, very rare scenario. The more reasonable and realistic scenario is you're in business for a long time. So you may as well buckle up, get ready for the ride, dig in, and be committed to the haul. Be committed to the long haul that you're going to figure things out and you're going to achieve your long-term goals.
Definitely. You know what? This is a very interesting point, and it brings me to two. two things. One thing that you mentioned, and another point that I want to bring up. One, the fact that sometimes when you don't know, you're kind of searching for that meaning in life. Like, what were you meant to be doing in life? Like you mentioned, you started doing so many different businesses, so many different things, and eventually all of those things helped you and shaped the person you are today, and the
Mhm.
the successful syndicator that you are. You started this multifamily business, you went for it, and now you're seeing all of these gratifications, all of this success. So it's a great powerful message for a lot of people who may feel that are a little bit lost, don't know where to start in life. Eventually everything will sort out itself, and you will find your way. And then the other thing, you mentioned that a lot of people ask you to come and speak at their conferences and things like that. But one thing that I would say personally about Paul, having known him now for some time in this space, is that you are definitely a people's person, and you are able to connect on a much deeper level with other people. And I think that nurturing part of you that's able to connect with people helps you connect with the audience, and that's why people like to be around you and
Mm.
want to bring you on as a mentor and as a speaker, motivational speaker. So that's great. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, that's nice for you to say that. I, for a long, long time, I have been very interested in the human journey and human achievement. You look at my library, I probably have 1,000 books in my library, and the vast majority of them are inspirational autobiographies. Like I like
Wow.
reading stories about successful people or people who have been through some kind of challenge and come out victorious on the other side. I just like that. So the human experience, the human journey is very fascinating to me. And there's no way to find that out unless I just get with you and ask you. Like
Right.
we've all been someplace. Like our interaction right now, right here, is the result of some place you've been and some experience you both have had. So, what brought you here? Pretty easy question. All right, let's find out the answer. You know, and to me, that's always been a real cool aspect uh, of the human journey and the human experience that I like.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Paul.
Yeah, we kind of got off business. We got off the business track there, didn't we?
No, this is great information for our listeners. I'm sure
Definitely.
whoever
Well, it's all
tunes
it's
in to
it's all
this,
related.
yeah,
Yeah, it's all related, isn't it? Because if you have a real curiosity about humans and the human journey and the human achievement, then that translates into okay, you're going to connect with investors, you're going to connect with brokers, you're going to connect with lenders, you're going to connect with other partners. I mean, it's all interwoven. So
exactly.
it's not exclusive of each other. It's my way of thinking.
Exactly.
100%.
And even like just touching a little bit on in terms of when you want to connect with investors, like you want to get to know who they are, like how is their lifestyle, like what type of, like how much money, not in terms of money do they have to invest, but like how is their lifestyle good, and the amount of money that they have, like how is that going to um how is your investment that you're providing for them going to fit into their lifestyle. So it's very important to be able to connect in that level.
Absolutely. Every investor has their own reasons for the reason that they're investing.
Hmm.
They all have, yeah. So it's up to you as the syndicator, you as the manager, the owner operator, to find out why they really, like the real truth of why they want to invest,
Exactly.
and see if that fits into your plan.
100%. Paul, so you said you have over 1,000 books. I'm intrigued to know what's one book that you would recommend for us and for our listeners out there.
Well, the book I read, okay. So in the past 2 months, I've read 5 books. Okay. So the one that stands out to me the most at this moment is a book called Relentless. It's
Relentless.
written by Tim Grover, and he was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade's personal trainer. And so the whole book is about the mindset of somebody who has a winning attitude. Like, like what is that really like? Not just somebody who wants to do well, not just somebody who wants to succeed, but like a real winner, you know? And I have thoroughly enjoyed that book. So I bought his second book. It's called Winning. I'm in the middle of it right now. But let's see, I read a book over the last 2 months. I read a book called The Inside Track. I read a book called Traction. I read a book called Relentless. I read a book called The EOS Lifestyle. So, these are all nonfiction books, right? So they're all either biographies, autobiographies, or stories and study of successful people and successful businesses.
Very
There's the
nice.
classic Think and Grow Rich. Like I read that, I reread it maybe once every 3 or 4 years. I read it 3 times. I actually have a signed copy of Think and Grow Rich, an autographed copy by Napoleon Hill. So, I value that book. That's a classic, of course. But yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from reading about the journey of highly successful people. And it's not just athletes and it's not just athletes and business people and that kind of thing. Like I have a number of books about family and men and patriots and a variety of people that have experienced a measure of success in their life.
That's a great list. Thank you for sharing. Relentless. I'm taking notes on that
Yeah,
one. Love
yeah.
that. Okay, great. So Paul, what's next for you and your team? Are there any projects, anything that you're currently working on that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So we think that in 2024 and 2025, that'll be the year that we put together our fund. And so investors can come
Nice.
fund the fund and they will earn money from the fund. And the fund obviously will be invested in multiple deals. So that gives the fund a much better opportunity to grow and to be profitable. We're dipping into some other uh, uh, types of real estate. I think I mentioned earlier that we're building self-storage. That has become a nice little add-on to what we're doing. Since I have a heavy construction and development background, I've really enjoyed the process of developing and building a new self-storage. I like the idea of building something fresh. If you think about it, I have a really extensive builder background. And when we buy an apartment complex, we're actually building a business. So I guess if I had to put it all into one word, I'm a builder. I'm a builder of businesses, builder of teams. And hopefully at some point, somebody will consider me a builder of people.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Great. Um, are there any upcoming projects in terms of like real estate syndication? I mean, besides the fund launch that's upcoming, are there any deals that you're currently raising for? Any deals that are coming in the pipeline for you? Anything of that sort?
Yes, we have 3 deals right now that are in the pipeline that have opportunities for investors to invest in. They all kind of look the same in that the returns are projected at 20% per year. The interest rates are fixed debt. They are all value adds. They are all class B minus or C plus. They are all between 100 and 150 units. So they all look real similar to each other. Um, but just uh, that's kind of turned into our little lane here, our fairway. So if someone wants to invest in one of those kinds of deals and one in our team, then we do have opportunity currently going on right now.
And where can listeners and investors find you and learn more about these deals and about you?
Yeah, great. So montelongocapital.com. There's a way to get on our list. We have articles, and our deals are there, and it's a full investor website. Of course, anything Paul Montelongo on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, anything Paul Montelongo. You guys know that I post pretty regularly, and we post educational material, and we post what's going on, and we also try to demonstrate a lifestyle. Like, we're not just all business. We like to have fun, and we like to enjoy life, and so we think the two should complement each other. So we do like to uh, post that, and I love to interact with people on social media. So if you're a part of our social media, um, you message me, you'll hear back from me.
You'll
So
and you'll hear
uh,
back from Paul Montelongo, not a bot. So no, that's great.
yeah, not
That's
a
great.
bot, not a bot. Hopefully, I will never get to the point where I have to automate responses, right? Because
Right.
I like personal interaction. I will say too, the other thing that my wife Letitia and I have done, and by the way, follow Letitia. She's actually more. Um, what's the word? She's actually, Letitia is more prolific than I am on social media. So yeah, she's quite active, and and her stories and adventures are they're much cooler than mine.
What's her social media?
Letitia Montelongo, Letit, right? Letitia Montelongo. Anything Letitia Montelongo. So
Great.
the other thing that she and I have done is we put together our first private mastermind group. So we've been working on this and planning on this and seeing this as part of our vision now for a couple of years. Actually, we were working on it pre-pandemic, and then we had to, pause for the pandemic, but we're back on track now. So we have a private mastermind that's being held in Scottsdale, Arizona in October 18th. We're only allowing 40 people there. It's all inclusive, the room, the food. We have private chefs, we have entertainment, but we have some pretty cool keynote speakers. So like, we have Neil Bauer confirmed. He's going to come talk to us. Richard Wilson just confirmed day before yesterday. Of course, he's Mr. Family Office, and he's going to train us on how to raise money from family offices. Um, and we've got some other speakers that are really, we've got Mike Guthrie, and Mike Guthrie has raised tens and I think over $80 million in the last year. So, capital raising is a key component of our business. So we've got really great speakers. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is, if you go to the event, then I'm personally going to mentor you for the 6 months following the event, every week, once a week for 6 months, on the business plan that we'll develop at the summit, the event. And so we call it the Adventurers Investment Summit, because we're going to add adventure to it as well. But I'll personally mentor you for the 6 months following that. And so if that's of interest to you, that is on montelongocapital.com. There's a link to it. We're happy to Zoom with you, interview with you, and find out if this is a match for you.
And do they have to be in Arizona?
Oh, no, 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 no. We have people coming from all over the country so far. No. If you're in Scottsdale, you live in Scottsdale, and you want to come to the event but go home and stay, in your own bed, then we can make some financial arrangements with you there, because the price of the ticket includes the room. Right? It's a private house. But actually, it's 3 private houses in a group with 3 swimming pools, and it's a compound. It's pretty nice. So we did this because if you think about what we talked about earlier, the relationships that we feel are key to build, and getting to know people and creating an experience with people, we decided to put our mastermind together with those elements in mind, because we discovered that that's what really helps people connect. And when people can connect, then they can do business together in a trustworthy way, and in a way that they're all on the same page. So we've put together the event to feature those values, so that we can all collaborate and move forward, doing deals together and expanding our businesses together, and growing the wealth and growing the pie. So we're really proud of that so far. We're proud of the event. We think it's going to be a really good event. There'll be more to come. But then I don't know if in the future we'll have the personal mentoring attached to it. But for this particular event, I'm going to be doing personal mentoring for everyone that attends.
That's very good. Thank you for sharing that information, Paul. I think that, that's a very nice touch. There's a lot of mastermind groups out there, but they do not include this very personalized one-to-one training or coaching
Right,
with the individuals. So I think
right,
that adds a lot of great value. So,
right.
definitely reach out to Paul Montelongo if you want to be part of this. I think it's going to be great. And like I mentioned, Paul is a great mentor. So thank you, Paul. And yeah, I think that concludes our journey for today. So once again, Paul, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing all of this great insights and content for our listeners. Until next time.